It's incredible, isn't it? How simple it is to notice certain patterns in our lives, and how often we overlook them. Almost as if our mind is waiting for us to finally realise the power of noticing these patterns. Imagine for a moment you're on an aeroplane, and the flight attendants, they're calmly and confidently explaining how to put on your oxygen mask in the event of an emergency. You first, they say. And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because how can you possibly help others if you aren't in a position to help yourself? And once you accept that, you begin to realise the truth. The only way you can truly serve others is by making sure you're okay first. Isn't it fascinating how often we forget this simple rule? But the next time you're faced with a challenge, you might hear a small whisper in your mind. Take care of yourself first. And that whisper is there to help you. It's there to guide you into making sure that you're mentally, physically and emotionally ready before you step out into the world to give your best. Because you see, it's impossible to be on all the time, isn't it? People think they should always have energy, the charisma, the social grace, but that's not realistic. It's like trying to keep a light bulb shining at full brightness forever, without ever turning it off. The truth is, it's not authentic, and deep down you know that. Trying to keep up your persona can eventually burn you out. Sometimes it's perfectly okay to choose the people you connect with. And when you start to make that choice, when you decide not every social event needs to be your next step, you begin to feel more aligned, more in control, because deep down you realise the quality of the relationships you build is really what matters. When you see the difference between those who are lonely and those who are socially connected, something shifts. People who have fewer but deeper connections tend to live better lives, mentally, emotionally, and even physically. It's almost like they have a special secret that others miss. They think faster, solve problems with ease, and they thrive instead of just survive. And then think about the effect of loneliness on the brain. It's almost like it puts a filter over the pleasure that you feel. People who are isolated experience a dopamine dysfunction. They feel rewards, but less intensely. Imagine how much rewarding life can be when you share it with others, deeply. Isn't it worth it to choose your connections wisely, to surround yourself with people who energize you and not drain you? Let's talk about the 80-20 principle. Have you ever noticed 20% of your clients cause 80% of your headaches? Isn't that fascinating? If you really stop and think about it, this pattern exists everywhere. The key is to identify the early signs, the patterns that hint that these difficult people, they'll only cause more strain. Once you see it, you can prevent the cycle. And by simply writing down your thoughts, committing to remembering them, you begin to act with more precision, more control. Because you know, places matter too. There are locations that fill you with energy. There are places where you thrive. Maybe it's a one-on-one setting, or perhaps you're more comfortable at a smaller social gathering, away from the chaos. It doesn't matter how big the event is, it matters how you feel. And of course, there are neutral places, where you might feel neither particularly energized nor drained, just neutral. And yes, then there are the places that leave you feeling like you're just surviving. We all know these places, don't we? And the trick is knowing when to avoid them. For those who feel drained by large crowds, it's okay. You don't have to fit into the mould of being at every party or nightclub. It's perfectly fine to say, you know what, this isn't my scene, and instead choose places where you can thrive. And sometimes the trick is to give yourself permission to shift. For example, if you're already in a group and it doesn't feel right, you can change the location. Maybe a phone call or a smaller, intimate setting would be better. Simple. It's okay. It's more than okay. It's smart. When you realize how important boundaries are, when you finally give yourself the power to say no, you begin to notice just how much more energy you have for the things that really matter. It's like closing the door to unnecessary stress and opening it to what truly matters. And you know how to say no without guilt, don't you? It's easy. You simply start with gratitude. Thanks so much for thinking of me. Simple but direct. No need to justify or explain. If needed, offer an alternative. I can't do this now. I'd love to do it together another time. That's it. Stick with it. No need to explain. Because when you stick to your boundaries, you feel more empowered and others will respect your decisions. And hey, When you receive the emotional email, it's okay to take a step back. Wait 24 hours to reply. It doesn't mean you're avoiding it. It means you're giving yourself a space to respond thoughtfully. That simple pause can shift everything, can't it? Let's refocus. Refueling. Where do you get your energy from? From the people around you? From the time spent in nature? From exercising, reading, writing? Whatever it is, once you identify it, you can begin to nurture that energy, almost like filling a well that will always be there when you need it the most. You see, when you take the time to put your oxygen mask on first, everything else becomes clearer. When you understand the patterns, you begin to shift. You begin to thrive. It becomes easy to choose who you spend your time with, to say no when needed, to honour your boundaries, and to refuel yourself. Life becomes more aligned, and you get to choose which path you walk, always knowing that you have taken care of yourself first. Now, what would it be like if you took one small step today, just one tiny step, towards giving yourself that permission to thrive?